Hello and welcome to the Nordic Takedown podcast / vodcast. My name is Jason the Captain Kirk, and we are here with episode 99 of the Nordic Takedown. Every single week for 99 weeks we've done this. I'm here with, as you can see, my blonde / ginger / brunettes / a little bit grey co-host Victor. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, mate.
Awesome. We are we're gonna a good episode today, moving a little bit away from the normal stuff that we do to kind of have a little bit more of a community focus on just the game as a whole and how we can build our community, how we can grow, how we can bring new players into the game, having this kind of discussion, because then next week we have episode 100, of course, because 100 comes after 99, so we kind of need to do that. So yeah. So we've been talking, we're gonna have a bit of a celebration next week as well, so don't miss that one out. So this week, what have you been doing, Victor?
Not much really. I'm sort of testing some decks, but I'm in a bit of a lull because I can't get to any more major tournaments for this set. I will have some store championships coming up, and I haven't really decided whether or not to go series for them and try like use a good deck, or if I'm gonna try some meme decks or what I want to do with those. I'm still haven't completely given up hope that there will be opening up a spot at some of the PQs that I can visit, but they are sold out at the moment. So right now it's looking like it's just casual.
Yep. Absolutely. And I'm I was a little bit distracted there because I do have the Fantasy Flight stream on there, and I have seen the new rare base, Shipbreaking Yard, 26 power, epic action. It's the aggression base. Discard 3 cards, and you can put one of those cards into your hand.
Sounds good.
Which is really, really spicy. Yeah.
Card draw can be good in card games.
It can be very good, and there's a lot of card draw in some of the stuff coming out and discarding and stuff like that. The new Jinnerso hero. No, that's the new red, the new aggression.
New red. But it looks like they're going to make blue red the new control color.
Yeah.
So a base that can discard you cards, draw you cards could be interesting for those.
Yeah.
decks.
So not draw cards. You're discarding and then drawing and picking one card up that you discard.
So drawing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what control decks want to do, but they also want to have lots of health on the base. So I don't know.
So in answer to your question, I am looking a lot at the cards that are being spoiled literally right this second as they're popping up on the screen. This is why we shouldn't multitask, right? I'm looking also, I'm playing a lot actually. I'm teaching a friend of mine locally, a new friend who just suddenly jumped into the game, mentioned about him before, and came along to the PQ in Linköping, had a really good time, had a blast, and which was also kind of like giving me a little bit of a encouragement for today's topic. So we're doing a lot of that. Actually, kind of, he's been really interested in trying to try out different leaders, and so we're kind of actually doing some deck building. How can this work? How can this work? And then realizing it really doesn't work, and then finding something online. But there's been a lot of going through cards, putting stuff together, and I'm actually having a lot of fun with the game because of that. Actually, so that's kind of what I've been doing apart, as well as planning the podcast and. We've also got some new stickers coming out as well. So they turned up today. Thank you, Victor, for ordering them in. So if you see any of us at a tournament coming up and you want a sticker, let us know. We've got a few to give out so you can show your support. They're they're not quite tattoos, but if you want to stick them on the
Yeah, I mean, they're probably not very comfortable, but
Well, my children at the moment have an obsession of putting banana stickers on their forehead.
Oh,
My
oh.
4-year-old, whenever he eats a
I
banana,
think that's kind
will
of a phase you go through.
yeah,
Like the
true.
fruit stickers, like apples and bananas have them.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna be sticking one of these on my bananas, and he can go to school and be a walking advertisement board. Uh,
Lovely plan. That's good parenting. Good parenting right there.
exactly. Yeah. Using your kids as free advertisement as well. Not that the preschool teachers are the people that we want to bring into the game, but I'm pretty
Always.
sure that I'm sure they'd love the game. So yeah. So have we had there's some obviously there's always some tournaments. We're kind of into kind of the PQ season at the moment as well. Last week we did a bit of focus on that. What's been up recently?
I mean, we had obviously Tilburg a week ago, and then we had Mesa this past weekend in Phoenix, which was really nice little tournament. Our friends over at McClunky Gaming streamed it. There were some internet issues which made it really hard for them, but Tim and
We don't
Clarion,
know anything about
they
that,
just
do we?
powered. No, we don't know anything about that. It's, I mean, even it sure, people like us can get stuck, but even like people that are doing it as well as McClunky is doing it
Yep.
sometimes get stuck with bad internet. And in this case, they use like these hotspots, and still the signal in the venue was so bad
Yeah.
that this is what
Especially
happened.
if you're in a crowded place with thousands of people, like you can never get a signal to call anyone anyway. So it's really really tough.
It is.
To get that, and for some reason these venues like to charge a absolute bomb,
Especially American
internet.
venues, they go like 5 figures numbers for internet in dollars. Like, so that's just crazy amounts of money. So it's just unfeasible for people doing it the way we do it to actually pay for those kinds of internet. Luckily in Europe, usually it's not that expensive, so we usually get to use semi-good internet when we stream. We just had a bit of bad luck in Linköping, and McClunky ran into the same issue here, but the stream is still very enjoyable, and some really good players were on stream. But in the end, it weren't I mean, there were really good players winning, obviously, but the top names were not what took it down this time.
No, I mean, I'm looking at the thing now. We had Han 2 Han 2 yellows in the top.
A lot of Han 1 though.
Han 1. Sorry, Han 1 yellow. With Han
seems
1
that
green
Han 1 and CAD were kind of pushing a lot of the previous. Like, there's been so much talk about Yoda and Han 2, and it seems that Cad Bane were holding the Han 2 decks back for a bit, and they were also a lot of decks that were able to meet up with the Yodas. So in the end, we had we had Han ones in doing really well, a lot of Han ones. So that's kind of the story, where the story of Tilburg very much was the story of Han 2. Then the story of Mesa was definitely the story of Han 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So and looking at this top 8 list, like, is only Kylo that's obviously the Kylo Data Vault.
Kylo
Data Vault. This is Kylo 5 Data Vault. Kylo.
It's the Kylo from Legends of the Force.
Exactly.
So this is the control deck that were kind of brewing already back at Galactics, but it sort of got some extra boost with the Force Throw being suspended, and also with kind of some of the new cards that came out in this set. So it seems to be the control deck that people want to go. It's not absolute hard control. It is kind of hard, but it's not Iden Green.
No. It's a fun. It's a fun blue-green control as well, because obviously,
it is the new Chancellor Palpatine
that we saw the Chancellor Palpatine take down the PQ in Linköping, and that was very much hard control as well, right?
That was very hard control. Yeah, that one was strictly hard control,
and so that's also a new one. But this is also like one of those decks that's a little bit more fun to play, kind of like the Kira kind of things, where it's control, but you're playing units.
So this is much more in line with what Kira Data Vault used to
Yeah.
be, whereas Kira Data Vault nowadays is slightly more proactive. It's closing in on the mid range. This one is more controlly, but it is control with unit based control. Sorry, it's not absolutely unit based,
No.
but it is sort of a mix bag. So yeah, but it's
Yeah,
not the
absolutely.
kind of almost combo deck that Kylo Red used to be. The Carlo Tarkin Towns that Botham
Yeah,
Network took to second place in Galactics.
absolutely. But the point I was going to make was that actually, even looking at the top 16,
Yeah,
that Kylo was the only leader not being rotated out.
right.
So, you know, everything
There were
else in the
some
top
Talsins doing fairly okay.
pretty, yep,
Yeah,
but
and there were
nothing.
Piets that were the Piet. There were lots of Piets in the field, but there weren't that many that actually made it that far.
Oh no, absolutely. Um,
Saber wasn't doing that great in this tournament.
no,
It seems
34
that the
is nice.
CAD Tarkin Town decks were the most successful Tarkin Town decks. Lots and lots of the major players, like the big players, were on CAD Tarkin Town. You had the lots of the Bothans were on it, and also a bunch of the KTODs
Mm,
guys were on it. So CAD Talking Town seemed to have been people's meta call to sort of tech against Han too. And it seems that they figured out the Yoda game, like the Yoda matchup as well, because they weren't
mhm,
doing too poorly into it. So yeah, I think it was a really interesting tournament to watch. It wasn't I can't remember, but it was I'm not sure it was sold out. It was
no.
close to sold out, but I'm not sure it was. So 500-ish players.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Um, so that's a little bit there. Interesting the meta that we have over in the US as well, and how that I guess differs from some of the meta that we have in
It
Europe as
feels
well. It's
like it
very
very much
different.
was an answer to what Tilburg was.
Yeah.
It feels like everyone expected Mesa to be very much what Tilburg was. And
Mm.
then, kind of in doing so, they shifted it.
We'll all come with the answer. Wait a
Yeah.
second. Cool. Well, always good to have you on when we're talking about past tournaments, actually, Victor, because you have like really is it in Swedish like full call, like full. I don't even know what the English is, and then like the full lowdown of who was playing what and how was playing what. So we're always good to have you on for that segment. But let's moving on to our main topic then,
Yeah.
because one of the things that I've been trying to think about this for a few days now. I sent something out in our little private group at the weekend, just trying to think, okay, what can we talk about? Because I wanted to have a bigger discussion about something. And one of the things that actually has been, going back to the old Family Guy, what's grinding my gears, is people saying that the game's dying, the game's dead for so many different reasons, and I'm just thinking like, well, if people are making YouTube videos about the game's dead, the game's dying, well, guess what's going to happen when people watch these videos? They're going to think that they're not going to buy the product. They're going to, do this. It feels like the people making these videos, they want the game to die and as an excuse to get out of it. And so, well, actually, the people who like us who like the game or love the game and have spent way too much money on on this. It's like, well, actually, what we this is a good game. What can we do? What should we do? And so we don't want to focus so much on the whole. Okay, is the game dying or not? Because we don't think it is. We're going to address that quickly, but we want to say, what can we do to respond to
If
this?
you're afraid of this, what could you
Yeah,
do
exactly.
to sort of help it
But
not die?
what is the basis of these claims? I mean, there's card value is
I
one.
mean, yeah, there's
There's
really
meta is
two.
another one, but you've got a good
Yeah,
idea on this, so I'll let
people
you.
attack from sort of two positions here,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes you hear people that are playing it actively, somewhat competitively. You hear a lot of people in that. Sorry, not a lot, but you do hear some negativity we've been part of that as well, because people have been complaining about the meta, have been complaining about some mechanics. I know we've definitely done that. And also card value. These are points that are brought up by players of the game, people that play the game. And some of those, also rotation has been brought up by some people as like,
Mhm.
well, rotation is going to kill the game. And there's very little evidence that any of that would ever be a factor to kill the game. And I'm pretty sure that most people like us that do talk about some issues like pet peeves we have with the game aren't actually thinking the game is going to die.
No.
From this, like, pilot mechanic has been one of the main topics Adam's been bringing up a long time now.
Oh, has he? Has he?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he thinks the game is unplayable
No.
for it. On the
He was
contrary,
started
he's the
playing.
one traveling the most of us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he started playing Riftbound and
yeah,
was just like, "Wait a sec, yeah." Everyone was kind of hyping on about Riftbound, but he was just like
yeah.
came back after a couple of events. Was like, "Actually, Star Wars is a better game,
Mm.
despite pilots."
Yeah, yeah.
He still took the opportunity to give a jibe into the pilot mechanic, but he
Right.
still loves the game, right?
Right, and I've been pet peeving over card value and the issues with that, and I think from a player point of view, these are things that you can be down on, but I doubt that much players actually feel that this is a sort of a breaking point for the game
No,
at any rate. I do believe that things like Tilburg selling out in 15 minutes is pretty good evidence of that. The competitive scene is very
yeah,
healthy. Is the meta the best it's ever been? Well, I mean, some people like it very much, and some people don't. You can't please everyone.
no,
Everyone's going to have mechanics they don't like. Everyone's going to have mechanics they love. This is just
mm,
natural flow of a game. It's going to happen. Some sets are going to be slightly bums and doesn't really add that much.
yeah,
Others going to be bums and add a lot. It's just natural for a game. The other sort of venue of attack, and this is what you've seen mostly in most of these videos that actually talk about the game dying. They're coming from a little bit of another angle, and it's they're often mentioning how hard it seems to be for many stores to move product.
yeah. That is
Uh,
true.
and that might actually be the case. I think that most of the data I've seen presented in these videos have been more or less anecdotal, like this store has this much product. But there is a fair amount of it. So even anecdotal evidence, when combined, gets to be sort of statistical evidence in the end. And if that is the case, that a lot of stores are having trouble moving product, that is obviously an issue for the game. What speaks against that is how much FFG seems to still be putting into this game. Like, it seems that this is the one product that they're pushing right now. And
Mhm.
they used to be a very large game company. Now they're a smaller part of a even bigger one, since they're Asmodee. But as a game studio, uh, putting all your eggs in this basket right now, they could diversify. They have other games and they could start doing other games again. If this was something they were genuinely afraid of right now, I don't think they would go this hard on this one thing.
No,
If they saw sales dipping in a scary way for them, things would probably look differently.
yeah,
There is little evidence that I've seen that actually show um, problems beyond what all card games do eventually. Like, some sets are going to move very poorly.
yeah.
Twilight Republic sold really badly. It seems to have to do with the fact that most of the cards were rubbish, but I like to think that it's also because it was about some films that are really shitty. But that's more of a controversial opinion.
Yeah, I mean the power level wasn't amazing, and I
No.
think rotation is going to be an interesting thing because the first set was very strong,
Yeah.
and even some of the cards going out and looking at some of the spoilers coming in, like for example the card that could be replacing Overwhelming Barrage and a lot of Blue Green,
Mm.
isn't as strong as Overwhelming Barrage.
No. But on
The
the other hand,
card,
we've got two of them now. We've got Craving Power, and I can't remember the name of this, but we've got two sort of in that area.
but very
Damage
much
based
more,
removal.
yeah, focused, and a lot of the other stuff is coming out, but it's still not as strong as that first set. You had the first set. Shadows was pretty good, but Twilight, it was also very focused on things that were focused on just that set, right? Coordinate and things that weren't being repeated. Whereas Smuggle was something that carried on and still was useful as a very good thing. Twilight didn't have that. Going into rotation, there's some very strong stuff coming out.
Yeah.
In the next set.
Looks like
Eternal information is coming out in a couple of months, hopefully. There's a little bit of hype or a little bit of rumors about what Eternal could be. So that's quite an interesting area as well. Just another thing on the point that you made about actually they're going all in on Star Wars. I'm just looking at their YouTube channel here, and they are doing videos on Star Wars, Arkham Horror, Twilight Imperium.
Right.
Two of those I play. I played Twilight Imperium. Last time I played was 2 years ago, but I still say I play it.
I mean, that's almost like you're still playing it because it takes a bit.
It takes 2 years to play.
It takes a minute. It takes a minute.
Yeah, and there's the new expansion, and people want me to get a game going, etc., etc., etc.
I mean, it is
where they're playing. Yeah, that's the studio. They're focusing on there. Asmodee are bigger. They're working with a lot of other stuff. I mean, if you just look behind me, like I've got Flip 7. They pushed that one out. Forest Shuffle is something else that they are. I think they're distributing that one as well. Harmonies, Azul, a lot of these stuff are games actually behind me are games that Asmodee are using with different studios. And so FFG, they're becoming more streamlined, which means that they can put more effort into the development of this game.
Yeah.
And the designers and developers, they are so committed to pushing this game on. So it's got a lot of good going for it, but we can't compare it to Magic. We can't compare it to other games that have been going on for years and years and years and years, because they it's what they've done. Yeah. Star Wars is still a very young game, but it's a good game. The person that I've been teaching recently, he's talking about selling his Magic cards because he really enjoys this game. He really enjoys the back to front. The sequencing thing has been a bit of a learning game thing for him because he still wants to do everything that he wants to do on his turn. And I was like, well, wait a second. I've got something to do here. So it's a good game, and we need to show people how to do that. I
mean, if you're afraid of the fact that you see a lot of discount boxes for Star Wars in your store, well, how can you help? Well, get more people playing it. Yeah. Like the price point being low, boxes being sold at discount could be a scary thing, but it could also be a door that opens up the possibility for you to get more people playing this game. Because it's very cheap compared to most other CCGs. Right now, you can get competitive decks for much cheaper in Star Wars, and it's always been that. I think it has been sort of a strategy from FFG. I don't know that I personally think that's a good strategy, but it has been a strategy for them, probably. The way they've designed cards, it looks like they wanted the game cards not to be too expensive. And it runs through also in like the price points for displays and packs as well.
Yeah. So are we agreeing that getting more people playing the game is going to answer all of these issues?
I mean, it's the one thing that you could do as a person that likes the game to help out, both locally, because if you want your store to carry the game, they need to have people to sell it to, but also globally, if a lot of stores carry the product, the game is going to last. I mean, CCGs are always going to be a really hard market to work in. There are like 3-4 giants that have been around forever. And to come up and compete with those, so many games have tried throughout the years. Some have been able to stick around to some extent, and most haven't. Most have just vanished within like 3 years, 4 years, because it's such a hard market to work in. So yeah, will Star Wars survive 3 years? Who knows? Who knows? But if you
Yeah,
wanted to, get people playing it.
absolutely, absolutely. So moving on from people thinking that the game is dying, let's give reasons to why what we can do, and we're going to break this up into two. Like, what can we do locally, and then how can we and give them? We're going to get a little bit later. We're going to give some tips about how do we teach new players. What can we do for new players? I've got a couple of points here, and you've got a couple of points as well. I'm going to start off with another one. And actually, this worked really well with a friend locally, Dolph, who I met him at this kind of local gaming community. I had to come home and look after the kids, and it's like, look, he was interested. He saw like the badge I had here. I told him about the game and I said, look, I've got to look after the kids tonight. Do you want to come over this evening and I can teach you how to play the game? I had about 5 or 6 ready to play meta decks that I can just pick up and go through. And we ended up playing till like 2 a.m. We played some of the starter decks just to show, and then I kind of went through, okay, this is the latest set, this is what we can do. And it worked out really well because I had the stuff ready kind of just to go and to play. So have starter decks and have pre-built decks to lend out, to pick up and play. He came to the PQ, I had the cards, I had most of the Boba deck ready to go, and he liked it and went with it. So have decks ready to play, even if they're not up to date. It doesn't matter. It shows you the game, especially the game at its top level. Because some of the starter decks, right, they're good, but they're not competitive.
And they're not consistent.
No.
Usually with those decks, you might just not, it doesn't click. The game doesn't really do, it doesn't fire on all cylinders with these pre-built decks. You want to have decks that actually do the thing they want to do, and where you can easily show the person you're learning the game what this deck is going to try to do and how they can try to do that.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit rough with some of the starter decks. I don't know why that is. If I were building a starter product, I'd make it super consistent in a thing. Maybe not powerful, but I'll make it very consistent in doing the thing it's trying to do. And that seems to be something all card games I've ever played struggle a little bit with.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see what you mean there, and I mean you do want to give the room so that the player can improve on that deck, and that's the nice thing with the spotlight decks. You have most of the deck there, and then you could just add to it with the legendaries. I mean, you need some legendaries for the deck to really, really shine, right? And they're not going to put these legendaries in a spotlight deck. Unfortunately, they're not going to put rare bases. You're not going to have a Tarkin Town or any of the rare bases in spotlight decks. So there's always the tuning, and there's the room for us to build and make those decks our own, right? Because if it's a really good deck from the beginning, we need to make it our own. So that's the thing. Do you have any ways that what we could do locally?
So I think obviously teaching people the game is definitely one of the things, but I think like getting people to like, why would you play card games anyway? Why are people drawn into card games? And compared to like regular board games, what card games offer is sort of a community sense to it. Very few board games have a meta game, have something beyond. When you sit down with the board game, that's when the fun starts.
Yep.
And then when you've finished, that's when the fun stops. And then there's no fun until you play it again. With card games, there is so much fun outside of the actual playing of the game. Like building decks obviously is one thing. And to be able to keep up with deck building, you might want to watch content, and you might want to sort of talk to people about deck building. You want to build decks together with people. You want to share ideas, and you want to try things and try the deck. So card games, unlike a board game where you might, have a board game night and play one game or maybe two games, probably different games then. With a card game, you might play 5 or 6 matches of that game in a locals evening. Like if you're sitting down at your locals with your friends, you're playing several games, and that's because it's more than just playing the game, like doing it together and enjoying it. So what I always think is the strong point of these games is that part of it, like how much more it is. And try to, if someone already comes from card gaming, they know that.
Mm, yeah.
In that case, you want to show them the like the Star Wars community, how good a community this is, and you want to show them uh, all the different venues to take part in it. Obviously, if you have a locals, you want to introduce them to the people there, but also the online community, the content community at Twitch and YouTube. So there's so much more to a card game than just
The game.
the playing. And I think for a card gamer, that is something they probably know. So you just have to show them how to. For someone that isn't used to card games, you kind of want to broach that topic very early on. You want to show them how this is much much more of an obsession than they might think. Like it's an hobby. It's much more comparable to like miniatures gaming in that sense, that
Hmm.
it's a full hobby. It's much more than just a game.
Just a lot less paint.
Less painting. Miniatures gaming, a lot of the hobby is done in solitaire. Like you're sitting in your own room painting your figures. And that I have nothing against that. But what really makes card games so fun is how much it is engaging with other
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
It's a social
The,
aspect.
and there's the continuity point that you made there as
Mm,
well, is the fact that actually you can have a conversation, you can play a game, and then you can continue talking about what happened there. Why is this deck better? The conversation continues. Your deck and everything is development, and then that deck that you're playing that you really like, that becomes yours. That becomes your deck. That's your flavor, how you want to play. And that, I mean, especially with TGCs, I like that. But that's one of the things that I loved about Keyforge, was the fact that that deck, the one deck that I was given or that I bought, this was mine because there was nothing else like it. It already had my stamp on it, so that I could own this version. It was a completely unique thing. I can do that, and I can build that myself with these decks and develop that. And other people are then involved in building that deck. Other people are involved in that experience, and so you have this interaction, which it doesn't just it solves other issues in life as well, right? It's like, loneliness, and you get the community, you get other people to talk about things with, to share life with, and that is a really really good thing for a lot of people. I think that there are people that miss that,
yeah.
as well. So you're offering community
Mm.
to people as well. Yeah.
I think when you're looking at teaching new players, very often they're gonna have some card game experience with them.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
probably the main target that you're gonna find for this.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, and in doing so, you can sort of get you can fast track to the other parts of the aspects here by not giving them pre-built decks all the time. Like maybe you do that first, but you don't necessarily have to. Really fast move on to, and I know you did this with Dolph, move over to sealed. Like
Hmm.
open buy a box and then just grab 6 packs and start building decks together. And you don't have to, I mean, you're playing for fun and you're teaching
Yeah.
someone, so you don't have to like sit there and build opposite each other. Like open 6-packs together and start talking about building with those 6-packs
Yeah.
together. And then you do it again and build another deck. And then you try those decks against each other. Because getting the person involved in deck building in some capacity, which, like with limited, that is some kind of deck building,
Yep.
quite early on, it shows them more of the game.
Yep, absolutely. And that was one of the really, really fun times. And then you can talk about why something works, why something doesn't work. Why would you resource a card over another card? What, the first turn stuff you can go through step by step. And I know one of the conversations that we have a lot often that we've been having is Dolph asking me, why am I not winning? But because that obviously that's an important, there's a point I'm going to make a little bit later, but you can then help within the context of what they've built. Actually, no, we need to think about this and go into sequencing, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, that's a really good, going to sealed and even drafting and etc. And to do that, you need to get your local game shop involved. If you have a local game shop. I had one, and then I went and moved away from having one. And
you didn't just have one; you had Mana Torsk, by far the best store in Sweden for Star Wars Unlimited. There's a ton of great gaming stores in Sweden, and some of them are really supportive of the game, but none of them compare to Mana Torsk in their engagement with the SVU community.
I know, and I moved away. I moved away right, for some reason. It's like you have something good, and then you just go. Yeah, I miss it. I miss them. So another thing it was as well is actually don't fully go it alone as well. Like, if you're trying to build a community, like, maybe to begin with, if you're just trying to introduce it to one person, but have a small group so that people can play. It's not just based on you, because I've got this thing at the moment where I'm a parent. The thing at the moment where I'm a parent, I'm always going to be a parent, but I can't play every evening. Dolph can play more than me, but I don't have the ability, and so with again, we need to find 2-3 other people now that we also want to teach the game to, so that Dolph can also teach the game, and there's just more people and starting to build a community. So a couple of people have shown interest that we're hopefully going to be showing as well. So there could be a little thing coming up here as well, but get people along to say, let's build the community, let's try and teach other people and do it together with other people that how to play the game. FFG actually made this a little bit simpler. Last week, they did a rules update. Now, the rules update wasn't necessarily a change in the rules, right?
Well, some of them they did.
Some of them they did. I don't know if you can explain this quickly what they were.
I'm not Pontus or Matthias, so I'm not going to be as concise and good as they would be with this. But basically, the thing that changed is like the attack action is the one action that has several points of it almost have sequences to it, and it used to be that it was sequenced into 3 phases. Like the attack action had 3 triggering points.
Okay, so which were
it used to be that, or I don't know, that these rules changes haven't gone into effect yet, I don't think. No. Okay. So but it used to be the on attack, which is you declare what you're attacking, who's attacking what, and then you get to do all your on attacks. And it works like if you have on attacks or when attacked triggers, those are going to trigger now, and the acting player gets to choose if they want to trigger all their own attacks, or if they want their opponents to trigger their when attacks, and whatever that would be.
Because the active player decides everything.
Yeah. So as soon as everyone's triggered all their on attacks and when attacked triggers, you move on to the next part of it, which would be the dealing damage part. And after that, you would have a combat ends step, which also had a lot of triggers. And what they've decided is that it doesn't, for almost all cards, it doesn't really make them stronger or weaker to change those two phases into one. So the dealing damage and combat ends are now going to be the same phase. So anything that triggers from this is going to trigger in the combat ends. Anything that triggers from combat ends is going to be, they're also changing the templating here, which means how they word this.
Yep.
So they're going to start wording it more clearly and always in the same way. And it didn't used to be. It used to be that they sort of had different ways to phrase things that would happen after the on attack step, and that meant that some of it happened when you were dealing damage, and some of it would happen after damage were dealt, and that's gone now. It's all going to be the same window. It is a little bit unclear to me, and I have to check with the judges, because all of these things that trigger here are going to have the wording
when attack ends.
When attack ends,
Yeah.
and some of it are going to have conditions attached to that. So when attack ends, that's the triggering condition. It tells you when it triggers. It doesn't trigger on attack. Instead, it triggers on when the attack ends,
which is still after the damage is dealt.
Well, it's that is the thing that's slightly unclear, because that's actually the same thing. Damage is dealt in this step. It's going to be one phase, so there's no two phases here. So most of these cards will have some kind of conditions, maybe. Some of these cards will have some conditions, like if the unit survived the attack. It means that trigger can't trigger unless the unit survived. But some of them won't have that. Some of them will trigger even if the unit died. So when attack end doesn't necessarily need the unit to survive.
Right.
But some of those will have that as a condition, and that will be after.
So that effect might save the unit. For example, the new Chewbacca that's 4/4/4 when attack ends, heal 3 damage and give an experience to it.
So for instance, that one, could it save that? Could that unit survive? Because at any point where you reach 0, the unit dies immediately. So if you trigger the damage first and that ability after that, he wouldn't survive. He would die and wouldn't be saved, as far as I understand it. But if you trigger the healing thing, maybe. So some of this timing needs to be clarified a bit. Maybe it is very clear to people that are slightly better at this than me. But for me personally, I think there are some things I need to get my head around. Maybe it's going to be like the damage dealt part is going to be I deal my damage as something when I resolve my things. So if I choose to resolve all my things first, I get to deal damage to you before you get to deal damage to me. Not sure how this is going to work.
No.
But are these effects going to linger and wait? If they are conditional, like the condition is fulfilled and none of the things are breaking here, or is it going to go away if the unit dies? I don't know. Like Crate Dragon obviously lingered, so I think they're going to linger. It's going to be like waiting for you to start resolving your things, but we'll see.
But I think in the long run it will be more clear because everything is going to have the same wording, and it's going to be what we say the same with on defense. So not when this unit is attacked, it is on defense. And then they're also making resourcing, or putting a card into resource a verb. So you've got to be resourcing. It says resource a card. They're making that a thing now that you do, not just putting this into resource as well.
And that's
so
basically that is very much just a templating thing. That's not changing rules.
No,
but I
exactly.
think like you were going to say there, maybe this is streamlining things. It is going
That's
to be,
exactly what I was going to say.
yeah, because even though there are some things to wrap our heads around right now, in the end, it's going to mean that there are less places things can happen. And when things happen at the same time, there is one rule that's going to govern how that is resolved. And that rule is already there. That rule is that the acting
Active player
player
decides the
decides
order.
whether they start resolving or if the other person starts resolving. And when you are resolving, whether or not you go first or second, you resolve in whatever order you like. So I attack you and I decide you get to resolve first for some reason.
Yeah.
Then you decide in which order you resolve all of your triggers in this window.
Mm-hmm.
Then I resolve all my triggers in this window in the order of my choosing. So yeah, I'm
It will
still,
streamline it, but it's a change.
yeah, it is going to be less rules. We just need to see exactly how they interact.
Yep. Yeah, and this is coming into play in the release of the new set. I watched
Yeah.
the video before recording this as well. So this is actually coming out when Lawless Time comes out, because obviously the cards will be legal. So as soon as those cards are legal, then these new rules will be in play. So having said that, just a little brief news topics segment and simplifying rules and teaching new players, getting new players in. How is the best way that we can teach new players? Because we said before, we teach new players, teach the game. Yeah, okay, but let's break down that bit and just give a couple of pieces of advice. We've got about 10 minutes left of what we normally like to cap the episode on as well. But if we were to kind of teach some new players, what can we do to help people learn the rules?
I think best case scenario, you know something about the person you're teaching, so you know a little bit about what they know about games, and you can work with their previous experiences. I have to admit, I've only taught this game ever to people that I know some of their gaming history with. So I've always been able to latch on to previous knowledge. And when you can do that, I'm a teacher by profession. When you can latch new knowledge onto old knowledge, that's the very best way to teach anything. But when you're sitting in a game store and you meet someone that you've never met before and you're teaching someone absolutely new to you, you don't have that advantage. And I have to admit that I have no actual experience of doing that in this case. So I'm probably not the most skilled at sort of giving you a step-by-step process here.
No.
But I want to reiterate, when you're teaching someone where you know that they come from this background, they've played these games before, maybe you know that they're into miniature gaming or they're into card gaming or into board games or something, try to use the similarities between the things they already know and what you're teaching them, because that's going to be quite successful.
Yep. Good advice. Build on what they have. Are they a board gamer? Are they a card gamer? What can you compare this with? If they're a board gamer, maybe they play deck building board games, for example. So you're constantly, but you already have your deck that you built and you're always drawing and discarding, and there's a life cycle of cards, etc., etc. And then focus on, and this is like maybe I mean, this is really kind of sucking eggs level, but this is something that I will used to always forget to do when teaching games. Is I would go through the how to play the game, why you should attack, why you should do this, that, the other, and then half hour into the teach, people go, so what do we need to do to win the game? How does the game end? And I'm thinking, yeah, I probably should have started with that. And actually, one time I even forgot to talk about how the game ended, and and suddenly went, "Oh, okay, that's cool. I've done that. The game's finished." And they're like, "Wait, what? How? Wait, how did that happen?" I was like, "Oh, did I forget to say?" This was like 8 years ago, but I do remember that one thing. So kind of start with the end game. How do you win?
What's
And then
the goal of the game?
the goal of the game, get the base down to, the same damage on the base as there is health. And then go into, you have 2 arenas, they can attack, etc., and try and go through base by base. FFG did a fantastic product. This, I've got to say, has been really good, especially the board gamers, because the board, instead of a playmat, you have a board, and on the board you have a description of everything that happens: where to put the discard pile, where to put your deck, where to put your resources, initiative token. Everything is actually explained on the board for this. And so even if you can't get your hands on one of these, get I know there's a PDF of the rule book, because the rule book's also very, very nice, just to help you do that if you need help to do that. Otherwise, sit down and just go through. Okay, first game, just go through, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, and then up the tempo each time.
No, yeah. And I mean, again, when you're looking to teach it to a board gamer, like, talk about, this is the objective of the game. You want to kill the base, and there are 2 arenas, and you can attack with units. Good. Now, start going through. For a board gamer, you talk about, like, we take 1 action each, turn by turn, until we pass consecutively. And this is going to be latch on to board game knowledge. Many board games have this. So
Yeah, exactly.
you go and you talk about, in your turn, when it's your action, you have these options. These are the actions you could take, and you can take one of them, no more. So you can play a card, or you can attack with a card, or you can take an epic action. Those are your options. There are 3 options. So it's really smooth,
Yeah.
So if you play a card, how do you do that? If you attack, how do you do that? And then, you can start talking about what kinds of cards there, what different cards there are, and how they work. So if you play an attachment, if you play an event, if you play a unit, what's the difference here? If you're teaching a person with background in Magic, well, I mean, you're going to have a much smoother time talking about different cards, but instead you're going to have to focus on the fact that you can only take 1 action. You can only take 1 action in your turn, and then next person go. And you can talk about, but there is summoning sickness, and you use Magic terms to explain what's happening.
Exactly.
And most keywords are represented in Magic already. So
absolutely,
so
like overwhelm is trample, right?
And trample, overwhelm. It's the same thing. Yeah. And they will understand. And you can use, like, sentinel. Well, yeah, that's taunt. And they're going to go, oh yeah, all right, got that. But then you're going to have to explain that if there is no blocking, you don't decide if you get to block or anything. If they attack your face, they attack your face, and you can't do anything about it unless some of your cards actually say that you can do that. And so far, sentinel is the only thing that interacts with that. So you teach them from what they know, from where their background is.
Absolutely, yeah. And then when you think you go from this, I think having some kind of knowledge, and I think I would love to either create a resource or find a resource to kind of talk about the sequencing, how to best sequence, because I think even the good players don't do it all correctly the whole time. Sequencing is huge because it's an action to action game. Sequencing is so important in terms of how to do something. And last week when we were playing locally, I could see an opportunity where Dolph would have won. All he had to do was do something, and he was focused on playing cards and thinking, no, stop it, you can win. 3 turns, you can win. And just help him just understand that sequencing of that as well. And even there, I realized, I could have won actually if I sequenced better. So focusing on the sequencing of being in the moment. But the other thing is learning when to go face versus when to control the board. The matchups
so
of
both
aggro.
of these things are really like when you're trying to develop skill in a player, these are
Yeah.
not like your baby's first steps. This is
No,
not how to actually just learn how to play the game. This is how to play the game well.
exactly. But that's important. And this is why I bring this up, because if you want people to stick with the game and play the game, then they have to know how to win. They have to know, understand what to get better at, how to win, so that they will have more fun with the game. Because I've seen people, even with Star Wars, with Keyforge stuff, they drop off, they don't enjoy coming because they turn up and they lose, and they just don't enjoy the game because they lose every single week, and it's not much fun. They feel down on themselves, they feel stupid, whatever reason. So you need to give people a little bit of those keys to kind of say, okay, how do I sequence well? How do I know if I'm playing aggro? How do I know to spot a control deck? How do I know? Some of that is just knowledge, right? But you need to kind of give them the keys to know how to win, or it's just not gonna stick. They're not gonna find it fun. That's why Twin Suns is another good way to come in, because Twin Suns is so random. Like there isn't, you could be the best player and still lose on Twin Suns, because it is that thing as well. So you need to give them the keys to be good at the game, and let them find that way, but let them feel like they're in control of that they feel like they're getting somewhere, and or they're just not, they just don't rage quit the game, and then you've wasted your time, you wasted their time, and people just don't enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to ascertain what they want to do with the game. If they're coming from just board game, maybe Twin Suns is the best way to go, because that's going to be the experience that sort of latches on the best to what they know. But if you know that they don't like king making mechanics and that sort of thing, well, don't play too much Twin Suns, because they're going to perceive it as being a lot of king making in it. And there can be, but doesn't have to be. But it kind of it is a suspension of disbelief sort of thing, where if you don't want kin making in a Twin Suns game, you kind of have to agree on how you're going to play, not to get there. There's going to have to be sort of a local meta for that. But know your players, know who you're teaching. Maybe limited formats is the way to go with this guy, because they're coming from Magic, and they're going to be or some other card game, and they're going to be latching onto that real quickly and find it interesting to try and spot good cards. And like we've done this with people coming in. We did that with Spessy a couple of episodes back, where he got to sort of guess which cards are going to be good before he knew much about the game at all. But with his previous card game knowledge, he was pretty good at spotting what cards are going to be good. And that's a strength of Star Wars, not reinventing the wheel, but rather improving on designs that are tried and tested out there,
giving the wheel grip.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you can trust a person that comes from a card game background. You can trust them to understand a lot about the game as soon as they've got the basic rules down. They're going to figure things out. Whereas the things you mentioned, like sequencing, is very different in this game from most other card games. So that's where some players will struggle more. But if, on the other hand, if they have a board game background, maybe not. Maybe that will be something they figure out immediately, especially if you're good at chess or something like that, which is all about sequencing. They're gonna be very intuitive about how lines work, because that's very close to how chess works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that's what we got time for tonight. I think there's some good advice there. Maybe you're listening and thinking, actually, this worked with this person. Get in touch and let us know, because, all the advice we can give or that we can find and share with each other, I think the better. And, like we say, more players playing the game will solve all our problems.
Yep. Yep.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So cool. Do you any other tips, any advice before we say goodnight?
Not really when it comes to how to teach the game, but I do want like people to engage in the community. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already engaging with content in some sort. Branch out, look at what's out there. I love watching the game being played, so I usually try to watch streams of tournaments because I just love that. And if you do too, this weekend coming up, I'm going to be part of our friends over in Australia are doing a stream for the Canberra PQ this weekend on Saturday. So it's going to be for us. It's going to be Saturday afternoon. Saturday morning, and I'm going to be joining the cast for maybe 3 or 4 games there in the end.
When you say Saturday morning, is that like 3 a.m.?
No,
Saturday.
Saturday morning, like 9, 10.
9 a.m. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
And we'll post in our channels.
yeah, but
that's
definitely
happening.
will. And we just know the Bad Dispatch have been doing some really good looking, well put together streams. I love watching those streams. So it's going to be so much fun being part of it for once. So yeah.
Nice one. Thanks for that plug. And like I say, it's always good to watch people and maybe tell these new players about these streams that they can sit and learn and how to get things in. But until then, we will see you next week for episode 100 as we hit our centenary of not just 100 episodes, but 100 consecutive week episodes. I mean, it's something that we can be proud of, right? I am incredibly proud that we're actually getting to this place of 100 episodes. And then like in 4 weeks later was when it was like 2 years since Spark Rebellion was released, because we did the first episode, Adam and I, like the week of release of Spark Rebellion.
It's going to be our anniversary,
which is a lot of fun. So we'll see you next week. Until then, may the force be with you, and good night.
Bye-bye.